Okay, so good morning, and my talk would focus on the loss of sperm DNA integrity and role in childhood cancers. And basically, it focuses on two aspects: that how the loss of sperm DNA integrity or damage in the sperm DNA can be correlated to a number of diseases. So sperm is just not a mere vector of paternal DNA whose function just stops short at fertilization. But the work of the sperm DNA extends much more beyond that and is an important factor which determines developmental competence. Right? So if there is a damage to the sperm DNA, it's believed that it not only causes infertility, which is a sort of a step which actually prevents the damaged DNA from actually creating an offspring which could have a number of defects. But if the damage is not enough, it's not so significant, but it is there, it can actually result in a child being born with congenital malformations, or it can be result in recurrent spontaneous abortions, or it could even result in childhood cancers. And I'll just show you some data regarding that. Basically, I'm an andrologist and have worked on couples who are going in for assisted reproduction. And recently, there are reports that people who go in for assisted reproduction, especially with male factor infertility, have a higher incidence of childhood cancers. So we actually studied the DNA quality of these infertile couples, and then we took a separate subgroup of patients in whose children had retinoblastoma. And these were non-familial cases, so the cancer was not running in their families, and looked back at the DNA quality of the fathers. And it's well known that majority of these de novo germline mutations arise from the father. So I'll just share with you some data regarding that. So recent studies have shown that there has been a rapid decline in the male reproductive health. And especially the sperm is a cell which is most vulnerable to environmental pollutants as well as a number of factors which cause oxidative stress, and I'll just tell you why. And so various environmental pollutants which are polluting the water, air, have had their effect on the sperm DNA. Also, increasingly we're exposed to a number of plasticizers which are coating different packets that we consume water from, milk, and even the packaging products which package our food, baby products, and all these toys. And all these are having an effect on the sperm DNA. And the main thing is that all these environmental disrupting chemicals actually cause oxidative stress. And oxidative stress is a factor which alters the redox buffering capacity. It not only affects various different metabolic processes, but the most important thing is that it results in production of a highly mutagenic base, 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine. And this mutagenic base actually results in GC to TA transversions, single and double strand breaks, and also causes hypomethylation of the DNA. In addition to that, it's been known that oxidative stress actually causes preferential hypermethylation of the tumor suppressor genes, and thus is responsible for a lot of genomic instability in the DNA. The most important thing is that the sperm DNA is most vulnerable to even a host of lifestyle factors like sedentary lifestyle, smoking, alcohol consumption, and increased consumption of these fast foods. And recently we've also heard that there are increasing exposure to pesticides and insecticides, which also all result in increasing amount of endocrine disrupting chemicals in our food. So why is the sperm most vulnerable as compared to other somatic cells and germ cells to these factors? The reason is the sperm is a highly specialized cell, and it has a minimal amount of cytosolic cytoplasm because it loses majority of its cytoplasm during spermiogenesis, and because of that it loses majority of its cytosolic antioxidants, firstly. Secondly, the sperm genome is highly compact, and it's the only cell in the body in which majority of the sperm is actually, the DNA is packaged by protamines, and just 15% of the sperm DNA, which is shown here in dark blue, is packaged by histones. So this is the small portion of the sperm DNA which is actually being transcribed. The rest of the sperm DNA is inert. It's transcriptionally and translationally inert. So the sperm has a very, very basic DNA repair mechanism. Majority of the DNA repair mechanisms are not existing in the sperm. The only one that does exist is the base excision repair system. And the other important thing is that in this dark blue portion, which has the histones and which remains transcriptionally active, is the area which contains the telomeres. And also there are genes which are of developmental importance. Now it has been shown that though this portion is transcriptionally active, but it is translationally still inert. So why are these transcripts being produced? So these transcripts are actually being produced because they are going to help in the early development of the embryo. So if their levels are dysregulated, they actually result in impaired embryonic development, and again in pre and post implantation losses or congenital malformations. So because it has minimal amount of cytosolic antioxidants, a very basic repair mechanism. The sperm is most vulnerable to damage by oxidative stress and a host of environmental factors. In addition to that, I'd like to point out here, so the sperm is entirely dependent on the oocyte for its repair. But what happens in majority of these infertile couples, by the time they go in for assisted reproduction, they're already aging, so they have already crossed the age of 30, 32, 33. And that's the time when the female ovum has also started experiencing fatigue. So it is sometimes not able to clear the DNA damage which is in the sperm. And since the 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine is a highly mutagenic base which is a product of oxidative stress, if that is not removed, it results in a number of mutations which are going to be occurring in the zygote, right? So what is basically happening is that by a host of these factors, majority of which are modifiable and preventable, it results in oxidative stress. This oxidative stress results in mitochondrial dysfunction, and a number of mitochondrial mutations and variations accumulate in the mitochondrial DNA. This causes aborts the process of apoptosis. You find the sperm enter the process of apoptosis, but it's not accumulate, it does not complete, because of which you find that there are a large number of sperm in the ejaculate which have got DNA damage. This nuclear DNA damage manifests in the form of chromosome deletions. The Y chromosome has the highest number of deletions because it's the only haploid component of the sperm of the genome. And oxidative stress also preferentially targets the telomeres because it's guanine rich, and the guanine has the lowest oxidation potential. And these shorter telomeres actually result in chromosomal instability and loss of genomic integrity. And mitochondrial dysfunction also results in genome hypermutability, also because of causing oxidative stress, and all these factors are drivers of mutagenesis. So in the infertile population, we actually found that there are a large number of people who have higher oxidative stress levels than more than the cutoff. And this has been found both in case couples which are having infertility as well as recurrent spontaneous abortions. And in addition to that, we also find when we did comet assay, the alkaline comet assay, you can find that there are a large number of sperm which are having, by comet assay, you can actually quantify the number of sperm which have DNA damage. So there are different grades of damage. So this is the sperm where majority of the DNA lies in the region of the head. So there's maximum fluorescence in the region of the head, versus this where majority of the DNA has migrated to the region of the tail, showing that there's a higher level of DNA damage. So you can see that as compared to this case has higher level of sperm with DNA damage. So same thing we have also classified by doing, we have been able to determine the DNA fragmentation index in couples which are infertile versus couples which have recurrent spontaneous abortions, and also been able to quantify the DNA damage which is occurring in fathers of cases which have non-familial sporadic heritable retinoblastoma. So we have seen that there is oxidative DNA damage in a large number of infertile men, and also that has been seen in men who are normospermic. So there are recent studies which have actually shown that there are a large number of men who have normal sperm parameters as per WHO guidelines. But these men who are normospermic, they are neither oligospermic, neither azoospermic, they do not have any defect which you can make out as per the WHO guidelines. But these cases have high levels of oxidative stress as well as DNA damage. So we focused on retinoblastoma, which is one of the most commonest childhood tumor which is found, and in our country, this is we have a special the center for this RP Center of Ophthalmological Sciences, which actually deals with retinoblastoma, and we actually we started with two cancers. One was leukemia and one was retinoblastoma, and then we focused on retinoblastoma because we found maximum derangements were occurring in the fathers of these cases. So basically, we actually selected RB children, the ones who had retinoblastoma. We did mutation screening, and we looked at also the mutations in the parents. If we found that they had somatic mutations, we excluded those cases. So we only focused on those cases which were non-familial sporadic, right? So the cases which were somatic, which had mutations in the blood, were excluded, whereas somatic mutation negative cases were analyzed further for all these parameters. We looked at the oxidative stress level, DNA fragmentation index, total antioxidant capacity, as well as the levels of 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine. And then we also isolated the DNA for studying again these levels. Sorry, there's been a misprint here. This is 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine. We did the telomere length and again the mutation screening, and also isolated the sperm RNA for doing the microarray studies and further validating them by real-time PCR. So these cases which were familial, which had mutations in either the father's or the mother's blood, were excluded, whereas those cases which had no mutations in the father's or the mother's blood were considered further for the analysis. And the second part of the study is just to highlight to you how a simple lifestyle intervention like yoga and meditation brought about an improvement in a majority of these factors which could be the drivers of oncogenesis. So we've analyzed all these parameters again in these men after yoga and meditation intervention following 10 days, 90 days, and then further. The most important thing is that we have an integrated health center in our institute. So these cases who are actually, the children are going in for enucleation and staying in the hospital for over a period of months, went in for this intervention, and we were very strict with them to see that they actually complied to the treatment. So some of the data I'm going to share with you. So we had 95 cases, 75 cases of retinoblastoma and 20 cases of leukemia. These cases were not analyzed further because we actually found that the retinoblastoma cases, the fathers, had very high ROS levels. I told you the cutoff was 22. And the DFI, which is normally between 8 to 21, was also elevated. But as compared to that, in leukemia patients, the ROS levels in DFI were not so significantly upregulated. So when you actually analyze these cases, we found that majority of these cases, for example, out of 75 cases, 61 cases, the retinoblastoma father in the sperm, the seminal free radical levels were significantly higher as compared to the control population. Then we actually analyzed the mitochondrial DNA and sequenced the whole mitochondrial genome to determine what could be the cause of high free radical production. And we actually found that these cases actually had much higher levels of these non-synonymous mutations as compared to the control population. And majority of these were the non-synonymous pathogenic variations which actually result in higher free radical production. And in addition to that, we also found in these cases, when we did ultrastructural study, that majority of these cases also had sperm motility defects, and you can make out that their 9+2 arrangement of the microtubular apparatus is absent. When you look at these pictures of comet assay, you can actually make out at one go that majority of these cases, they had high levels of DNA damage as compared to the controls, where you can find that majority of the fluorescence is concentrated in the region of the head. As you look at these pictures here, you can see that as the DFI is increasing, majority of the DNA damage, I think it's gone very weak, majority of the DNA has migrated to the tail, showing that it is fragmented. In addition to that, now we've replaced this technique because comet assay is very cumbersome by using flow cytometry. This technique is known as sperm chromatin structure assay. When you look at the sperm towards the x-axis, they indicate the sperm which have the healthy DNA, the double-stranded healthy DNA. And if you look at towards the y-axis, it is the sperm which are having the sperm which are the healthy DNA, whereas the sperm towards the x-axis are the one which are the denatured DNA, or the ones which have got breaks. So as you can see that when you look at these three pictures, the one which is below, it shows you that a high number of sperm are migrating towards the x-axis, showing that there is higher level of DNA damage. So we also quantified the DNA fragmentation index in these fathers and actually found that these cases are in the retinoblastoma cases. There were a large number of cases which were falling into this category which had high level of DNA damage, that is 8 to 21 is the normal range. So cases above that, 30 to 45, you can see that there are a large number of cases which have very, very poor sperm DNA integrity. And we also found that in majority of these cases, out of 74 cases, in 34 cases, it was usually the last born child when the father's age was very high, above 35. And that's the time when DNA damage is actually rapidly accumulating because of oxidative stress, and mitochondrial genome tends to accumulate mutations, so it produces more free radicals. So it's very, very important that you draw a pedigree and actually can make out that this is a non-familial case where none of the sibs are being affected. But over the time, it has been found that these kids, the father, or maybe mostly it's the father, because with age, the number of divisions the sperm is undergoing are increasing. Therefore, you actually find that the chances of de novo mutations occurring from the father actually increases. So it's already been reported that in this study in Nature, that as the age of the father increases, the number of de novo germline mutations increase. So it was seen that as the age of the father increased, the number of mutations, you can see this is the number of mutations, it actually increases. So since now it's all been seen that majority of the couples are getting married late, or even if they're marrying earlier, they're delaying childhood, having a child because of professional and other reasons. So you actually find that the number of these mutations actually increase when the age of the couples is actually of having a child has actually increased. So it's been found that though the ova does not undergo repeated divisions, but the sperm keeps on undergoing cell divisions with increasing age. So it tends to accumulate mutations at a much higher rate as compared to the ova. And by the age of 40, the sperm has actually undergone 25 times the cell division as compared to that in the ova. So it tends to accumulate more mutations because of more cell divisions. The other thing is, as I told you, the sperm has a very basic repair mechanism, so it does not repair majority of its changes, the changes it accumulates. And also with age, it tends to accumulate more of this base, which is 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine, which we've also quantified. So this is just to show you that when we quantified the levels of 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine, I haven't got other details, like I've just removed some of the slides. We've also correlated the levels with not only with the age of the father, but also with people who smoke, with people who drink, as well as people who were exposed for more than 3 generations to pesticides and insecticides. And this last bar diagram shows actually the cumulative effect of all these 3 parameters, and it shows that as compared to the control population, people who are smokers, people who have alcohol in excess, and who are exposed for 3 or more generations to high levels of insecticides and pesticides had higher levels of this base, 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanosine. We also quantified the telomere length by real time, and we were able to actually make out that the telomere length in these cases was significantly shorter than in the control population. So this shows that oxidative, as I told you, the oxidative stress preferentially targets the telomeres. And since the telomeres are found in the portion of the DNA which is lying in the periphery of the sperm genome, so it is more vulnerable to oxidative stress because it has not got compacted by the chromatin. So the telomeres are preferentially targeted by the oxidative stress, and because the telomeres are guanine-rich sequences, so majority of the guanine in the telomere gets converted to 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine and undergoes single and double strand breaks. So when the telomeres shorten, it causes genomic instability. And then we wanted to understand that why the DNA damage which is accumulating in the sperm DNA has not got repaired, why it has not been detected. So there are 2 enzymes which are active in the sperm. One is the poly-ADP ribose polymerase, which helps to detect the DNA damage. And the other enzyme, once it's detected, is the base excision repair enzyme, the oxoguanine glycosylase, and we estimated the levels of both these enzymes. And we actually found that the level of this enzyme in the patient was significantly lower as compared to the controls. So once the DNA damage is not even being detected, it majorly goes unrepaired. So again, we find that the levels of this enzyme, the base excision repair enzyme, is significantly lower as compared to the control population. So further, after this, we also did microarray analysis just to see whether oxidative stress is not only causing DNA damage, not only causing an increase in the level of mutagenic bases, is it also affecting the levels of the sperm RNA? Because some of these sperms, where the RNA which are with the DNA which is lying in the periphery of the sperm genome is active, which is transcribing genes which are of importance in early development. When the sperm genome is, after fertilization, the sperm genome remains inactive for 24 hours. So before that, some transcripts are required for very, very early embryonic development. So we actually analyzed the levels, and we've actually found that there were about 1,077 genes which were the transcript levels which were dysregulated, and out of which 282 genes were upregulated and about 790 were downregulated. So we have analyzed a number of pathways which are involved, and have started analysis of some of these genes, which I'll just show you. So these are some of the ones which we have started working on. And also we further grouped these cases into cases which had high DFI levels with high free radical levels, high DFI levels with low ROS levels, cases with normal DFI versus ROS, and this analysis is still going on. But what I wanted to show you was that we have actually found that there were a large number of cases in which we actually found that there were dysregulation in a large number of genes, especially those involved in RNA processing, splicing, and transport. So in these cases were then, as I told you, subjected to the second part of the study, which was that how simple lifestyle measures like yoga and meditation, if they could actually show an improvement in the free radical, a decline in the free radical levels or a decline in the DNA damage. So there is an integrated health center where they are taught how to do meditation and to do certain postures which are beneficial and help to decrease the stress levels. And a number of parameters were analyzed in these cases. Chiefly, they were free radical levels, the oxidative stress, not only the free radical, the oxidative stress levels, but we have not only quantified the ROS levels, but also the total antioxidant capacity. We also analyzed the psychological stress levels by measuring the cortisol and the endorphin levels. The telomerase enzyme level was also quantified, with the reason being that telomerase enzyme not only helps to elongate the telomeres, but it also helps in DNA repair mechanism. The levels of inflammatory cytokines were measured because they cause oxidative stress. And in addition to that, I'll just show you a number of other parameters that were analyzed. So over a period of time, the first thing that we see that even within 10 days of practice of this simple intervention, there is a rapid decline in the free radical levels, the ROS levels. But it takes DNA damage about 6 months to improve. It was seen that the spermatogenic cycle is about 3 months. It's about 72 days. So what happens is that though the ROS levels decline rapidly, but the sperm DNA integrity does not show any improvement in 3 months. It shows some significant improvement after 6 months. So though the ROS levels are going down rapidly, the DNA damage is taking time to improve. And over a period of time, there is also a significant improvement after 90 days in the levels of 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanosine. The cortisol levels also decline, and as the inflammatory marker, the interleukin-6, the beta endorphin levels show an upregulation. The telomerase levels also are upregulated after 3 months, though the telomere length does not show any improvement. The upregulation in telomerase level is important because it actually shows that it's trying to maintain the telomere length. So this is just to show you these two cases which over a period of time you can see that the number of sperm which are towards the x-axis, which are showing the DNA damaged sperm, the sperm with the DNA damage have significantly reduced after a period of 6 months. Again, in the second case, you can see that there are hardly any sperm which are towards the x-axis. So this shows that there has been over a period of time, just by following this simple intervention, a decline in the level of DNA damage. The most important thing to be noted is that majority of DNA damage that the sperm accumulates over time or by exposure to environmental pollutants is oxidative in nature. And yoga and meditation helps in a very, very rapid decline in the free radical levels, as well as a decline in the level of inflammatory cytokines. So this is again to show you that there were two sets. So there were patients who underwent this yoga and meditation, and there was a group which did not undergo yoga and meditation. So it was done for all the parameters, but I have just shown you this because of shortage of time. This is to show you that over a period of time, there was a significant decline in the levels of this base, which is a marker of oxidative damage to the sperm DNA, versus the group which did not undergo any intervention, right? So there was a significant decline in this parameters. So yoga and meditation actually causes a decrease in seminal oxidative stress. There is a decrease in the DNA damage. The telomere length does not show a change. There is significant upregulation in the level of telomerase. There is a decline in the level of 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanosine. And accumulation of this base actually prevents methylation. So it's seen that when the 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanine is raised, there is a hypomethylation of the DNA, and these studies are still ongoing. One of the students is working on that, but normally it has been reported, it has been documented that an upregulation in the level of this base actually causes hypomethylation, and it was associated with a decrease in the ROS levels as well as an increase in the total antioxidant capacity. So seminal oxidative stress actually causes an increase in the mitochondrial mutations in the whole genome. There's an increase in the level of DNA damage, telomere shortening. DNA damage increase causes an increase in the level of these mutagenic bases. Mitochondrial mutations result in further increase in ROS production, and telomere shortening causes genomic instability, and all these factors actually help to drive oncogenesis. And we've seen in these cases of seminal oxidative stress that there is a decreased expression of the RB gene. So there may be cases which are having no mutations in the RB gene, but there was a decreased level of expression of the RB gene, which could actually be responsible for these mutations, for the cause of retinoblastoma in the children. So I would just like to end by saying that following simple lifestyle interventions like by doing meditation, yoga, taking your DNA for a walk, and having lots of fruits and vegetables actually can improve your sperm DNA integrity. And cutting in your intake, stopping smoking and alcohol intake, and also not eating non-veg food actually helps to improve the DNA quality. It's been seen that people who consume non-veg food have a 20% decline in the sperm DNA integrity. The reason being that non-veg or the meat tends to accumulate insecticides and pesticides in the animal's protein, and that is not cleared by processing them. So that causes actually damage to the DNA integrity. So if you actually follow these simple lifestyle measurements, you can actually prevent DNA damage, because DNA damage cannot be otherwise repaired, because there is very basic minimal repair mechanism in the sperm. So it only depends if you either modify your lifestyle or you prevent the damage to prevent these factors which actually cause the DNA damage. So childhood cancer is not only curable, but it can also be prevented just by following these lifestyle interventions. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Apart from age factor, so do you think that any other stress could be the reason that RS levels are high and getting increased amount of DNA damage?
Yeah, there are a number of factors which actually cause oxidative stress. One of the factors is, mobile phone radiation. Like they have actually found people who put mobile phones on their belts and use it for a prolonged period of time have oxidative stress. Varicocele causes oxidative stress. Exposure to high temperature. People who go for sauna very frequently or hot water baths, they have higher levels of oxidative stress. And even exposure to, they've said people who have fast food every day or higher fat intake have higher incidence of, because they have higher levels of inflammatory cytokines in the blood. Smoking is a very important cause of oxidative stress because it causes tissue inflammation. So it causes an upregulation in the levels of these macrophages which actually secrete free radicals. So these are the factors.
And say if anyone comes for IVF and you analyze the sperm DNA and if it is not right, so do you suggest not to go for that?
Actually, in our center, we are actually getting cases which are having IVF failure more than 3 times or ICSI failure even once. So in those cases, we actually tell these people to go in for this treatment. And then when their DFI goes down, then to go in with, explain to them everything. We are supposed to counsel them and explain to them the outcome. So majority of them actually in private centers, this doesn't happen because they do not want to lose the patient. But in our center, we actually counsel them when we do the DFI. That this is your ROS level, this is your, so they put them on antioxidants, but we also tell them that we'd also do counsel them that if you follow this, you can actually have a dramatic improvement and chances of conceiving normally also increase because the DFI level goes down over time.
So this comes in the standard protocol that it has to be there before they go for the treatment?
No, the thing is that it's not been documented by WHO, but our studies have been published, it's been accepted in Andrology. So now, once this is, actually it's difficult for the West to, I think, accept it that a simple intervention like that could have such profound effect. But it is having an effect, and our studies were blinded, so we did not know the cases which were actually being sent for yoga and the ones which were not, and we have actually seen a significant improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I just want to inquire, any such type of studies are done with the oocytes? They are less proliferative as compared to sperm DNA, but like as the age increases above 30 or something like that, is there accumulation of stress in these also, oocytes also?
Actually, we've done a study on oocyte, but the thing is that firstly the oocyte are very difficult to get. And we are getting oocyte from the IVF center, and the ones we get are the ones which are the poor quality oocyte because they, according to the ethical clauses, we are not able to get the good ones because they are used for creating offsprings. And so the data is not that reliable, though we found also the poor quality oocytes do have a higher number of mitochondrial variations as compared to the good quality ones. But oocyte is rather protected. Firstly, it does not undergo rare cell divisions, and it is brought up in a relatively hypoxic environment in the oocyte cortex, so it does not accumulate mutations at such a rate.
There is a lot of correlation of this retinoblastoma with papillomavirus, and you saw or trying to see some correlation with papillomavirus because there are a lot of reports that retinoblastoma is due to this and retinoblastoma.
So we haven't done that. We haven't done that. We've just been focusing on this part. We haven't done that.
It's a quite good study. Yeah, you have a lot of sample from retinoblastoma.
Yes.
We will talk later.
Thank you.